Good morning, United States Sports Academy here in Daphne, Alabama. It's Wednesday morning, and once again, it's Sports Talk Hangout with the faculty and staff at the United States Sports Academy. I'm Dr. Ogden. I serve as moderator, and every Wednesday morning at this time, we present some issues that have to do with the world of sport. This morning, our panel consists of, on my right and your left, Dr. Tim Foley, who played baseball at Kansas State University, and to my left and your right, Dr. Steve Butler, our Dean of Academic Affairs, who has been one of the more prolific baseball aficionados. And so today, we're going to talk about the Major League Baseball playoffs. Generally, we try to tackle some serious issues in the world of sport, some issues that have to do with social impacts, the fact that sport serves as both a mirror and a beacon of our society. But now and again, we try to just plain have some fun with the world of sport. And this is the time of the year I think that we can do it. We're in that time of the year when basketball is not quite ready to start, football is just getting started, and we're getting into the World Series. Exciting time of the year for sport. Many of you will probably consider that we are engaging today. The topic of engagement is very serious. We know that everyone here appreciate the actual competition in sport is essentially designed for fun. And so with that in mind, I have a few more comments, and I'm going to turn it over to the Academy's two great football gurus to discuss Major League Baseball and the playoffs.
That'd be baseball gurus.
Baseball gurus, yeah.
You're a football guru.
Okay. We know right now that 5 teams from the American League and 5 teams from the National League are in the playoffs. The American League, Oakland, Kansas City, Detroit, Baltimore, and Los Angeles are in. From the National League, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Washington, St. Louis, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are in. Last night, Kansas City eliminated Oakland 9-8 in 12 innings, which was the kind of game we'd expect in the wild card playoffs, so that Kansas City secured its spot in the American League Division playoffs as a wild card. Tonight, San Francisco plays at Pittsburgh in the National League Series for a wild card spot, also a one-game series. After those wild card teams are settled, each league enters a best of 5 game series with the 4 remaining teams. From those 4 remaining teams, 2 teams will emerge and enter a best of 7 contest for the league championship or their league pennant. And the pennant races have always been interesting for all of us. And finally, after all of that, 2 league pennant winners enter the best of 7 World Series for 2014. So after a maximum of 42 games, now 43 and now 42 because we played Kansas City and Oakland last night, we will have a World Series championship. Gentlemen, both of you are anxious about this series, so I'm going to sit back and let you discuss it because 42 more baseball games is enough baseball for this old football coach.
Well, if we have anything like we had last night, we're going to need a lot of coffee around here. I know that. Just going back to last night, the great thing is we saw just about everything. Great pitching. We saw power. We saw small ball. We saw a catcher that really struggled, have the game-winning hit in the 12th inning. So I don't know what's tonight's going to hold, but I'm excited already.
One of the interesting things about last night was the starting catcher for the A's had never caught Lester before, but they put him in because he's a better defensive catcher with a better arm to kind of slow down the running game of the Royals. And then when he got hurt, Lester actually pitched better because he's familiar with the old catcher, but turned the Roadrunners loose for the Royals. That those 2 guys they put in as pinch runners were it was like a trap. I mean, the first guy, Gore, he didn't even have a good jump. He was like 2 steps off the base. First pitch, he was gone. It wasn't even close. And then the other guy stole third, which set up the sacrifice fly for the tying run. And what the Royals did, they kept calling it small ball on television, as opposed to what the A's did with the 2-run homer, 3-run homer, both by Moss. And it was just kind of power against speed, and speed scored one more run than power did last night. It was a great game. Lasted till the wee hours of the morning, and well, I guess at least the A's can say they played baseball in October.
Yeah,
they made it past midnight. But Tim and I, before with about a week or two to go in the regular season, we picked our teams on this show. We picked who we thought would make the playoffs, and Oakland was actually the only team that neither one of us picked, and we both thought they would not make the playoffs, and they did. It only lasted for one game. The dilemma I have in my rooting interest is that the two teams, my two favorite teams, are playing each other tonight in another one-game elimination.
San Francisco and Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so either the Pirates or I've always been a Giant fan because I lived in Augusta, Georgia for 5 years. I haven't always been a Giant fan. For the last several years, I've been a Giant fan because I lived in Augusta, Georgia for 5 years, and I was a season ticket holder for the Augusta Green Jackets, which is San Francisco's Class A team. So, I watched Madison Bumgarner, who's pitching tonight. I watched him pitch an entire season as an 18-year-old, number 10 overall pick the year before, and I can tell you that he dominated Class A ball as an 18-year-old. He was phenomenal, and Augusta won the South Atlantic League Championship that year.
Let me jump in here and ask you a question because we're still talking about last night's game, and then tonight's game is another wild card game. I heard a discussion that these are the worst kinds of games to coach in from a managerial standpoint. They're a one-game series. Everything's on the line. Explain that to me, will you?
I think what happens it's basically a game 7, and only in this case it's even worse than a game 7 because you haven't played 6 games, so everybody's available. All your pitchers are available, and I think what happens is managers tend to overmanage. Like if Kansas City would have lost last night, they would have been frying Ned Yost this morning for taking out James Shields and bringing in a 19-year-old kid who's pitched in relief like 4 times in his entire career, including the minor leagues. He's not a relief pitcher. He comes in with 2 guys on base, gives up a 3-run homer. He threw the first pitch 100 miles an hour.
He was revved up.
But major league hitters will hit 100 if it's not moving. But James Shields he took him out with 88. He'd only thrown 88 pitches. And if you look back 2 years ago when they made that trade, the very reason they gave away 2 of the leading prospects in all of baseball to get James Shields was to pitch that game last night. And I mean, it was kind of interesting because on all the talk shows this morning, he was taking heavy criticism, and they won. I can only imagine what the criticism would have been like if they had lost.
And that's what you're talking about, why it's difficult to coach this one game.
Because it's one game. You tend to overmanage. Every decision you make is going to be magnified, scrutinized, talked about. But luckily in the end they came out victorious as far as he's concerned. And I don't think Bob Melvin made any controversial decisions that could be second guessed.
Well, we know the schedule looks like this. Tomorrow we still have the National League. Tonight we got the National League wild card, but tomorrow we've got Baltimore at Detroit at Baltimore, and Kansas City, Los Angeles. Give us a little heads up about that as they start their 5-game series.
Well, you look at
Do we know who the starting pitchers are going to be here?
I think Scherzer is starting for Detroit.
Yes,
And they got to watch out because all they have after that is Price and Verlander. So
and if they have to go 4 deep, they go to Anibal Sanchez, who's also awesome. I think Detroit's got the deepest pitching staff. Some people, John Schmaltz was on the radio yesterday, and he said Washington has the best pitching staff. In fact, he said if they stay together, he thinks the Washington pitching staff could be better than what Atlanta had for 10 years with Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine.
And the stats back that up because I looked at those stats and they led basically in everything. Zimmerman, who's the lefty? Gonzalez, yeah, they're
Gio Gonzalez, and then they have, of course, Strasburg. Probably the most famous. And then the guy pitched no-hitter on the last day of the season. Yeah, Jordan Zimmerman.
He's not bad.
Now Kansas City has one travel day. They played a long, hard game.